Welcome to your Urban Connection. And I'm not going to waste any time today. I'm going to get right into this. Because for the last 2 days, all I've heard from the politicians in this country, all the way from the President of the United States to the Vice President of the United States to the senators of the United States, the congressmen of the United States, the governors of the states of America, and others, all the way down to mayors and probably some city council people. All they can talk about is we must stop the political violence. And America is no place for political violence. But nowhere have I heard any one of those people, from the president to the vice president to any senator, nor any congressman, nor any governor, mayor, city councilman, or even a school board member. None of them have mentioned two words. And those two words are gun violence. Not political violence, gun violence. You see, we don't seem to get too upset when it's gun violence across many of our cities and states in America, but we get all turned upside down when one of our political people, and this guy was not an elected official, so I can't call him a politician, but one of our, and especially right-wing political people, are the victims of gun violence. You can call it assassination. You can call it a shooting. You can call it murder, whatever you want to call it. It's gun violence. And none of those people want to talk about gun control. Let's take action about controlling assault weapons on the streets of America. You see, let me tell you one thing. You cannot say that any gun violent act in America is a surprise, was unexpected. Not when you have more guns in America than you have people. Not when you have open carry in most states in the country. Not when you refuse to take action on reducing the number of guns from our streets in America. Let's face the fact. Gun violence is the norm in America these days. When you really consider it, America has always been a violent country. We've always had assassinations, murders, whatever you want to call it. But we have always at least been able to control the military style weapons that were on our streets. We didn't have everybody from 13 and 14 years old to 80 and 90 years old running around with AR-15s and AK-47s and other military style weapons that were never designed nor ever meant for the consumption of Americans who were not involved in some sort of military or law enforcement capacities. They were never meant for people to defend themselves. You don't need that. High-powered rifles, such as the one that was used in the case of Charlie Kirk, which was a high-powered rifle that would allow him to shoot. And when I say him, I'm not naming it because I don't know exactly who the suspect is. and I don't want to go on record as the FBI director did, and naming and showing photographs of two people who he identified as a suspect who turned out not to have anything to do with it. But that didn't stop him. That didn't stop him. He should know better. But it just goes to show how unqualified he is for the office, for the position. He put the United States government in a position of a lawsuit for jumping to conclusions and labeling somebody as a suspect without having any evidence to back it up. But anyhow, America is never, ever going to conquer these types of assassinations, the daily shootings and killings on our streets of America. And I don't care what part of the country you live in, it's happening all over. Okay? This one happened to happen in Utah. All right? Now, normally, the GOP would say, this happens in Chicago, this happens in Los Angeles, this happens in Houston, this blah, blah, blah. This happens in cities where they have black mayors, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, it happens all over the country. But it doesn't become a problem for this president, this vice president, and the GOP senators and congressmen until it affects one of them or somebody close to them. And then it becomes a political issue. No, it's more than that. It's a gun issue. And you can walk around all day long and says now is not the time to talk about gun control. No, I agree with you. It's not the time for talk. It's past time for action. You're never going to see a decrease in this type of violence as long as you refuse to acknowledge that we've got a problem with guns and gun control in the United States of America. There's no other country in the world that I know of that has this problem except America. Why does everybody have to feel they need to pack heat? And not only packing heat, but packing and running around with military-style weapons that were never designed to be on the streets of America, unless they were in the hands of military personnel, or in some cases, law enforcement, but not in the hands of everyday Joe and John and Jane walking the streets looking for trouble. Looking for trouble. Why else would you be walking around or having these kinds of weapons in your possession on a daily basis, unless you're looking for trouble? And it's going to happen more and more. And I guarantee it's going to happen in a town, a city, or a state near you. So don't be surprised and don't act like it couldn't happen and doesn't happen in America, because it happens every day. And it will continue happening until you take action. And at this point in time, you don't only refuse to take action, you basically refuse to even talk about it. And yet you expect it to change. You know? It's again, we go back to the definition of insanity, people. Keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result. The gun control problem, the gun violence problem that we have in America is not one that is going to self-correct itself. It's not going to happen. No matter how much we continue to ignore it, until it happens to someone close to us, it's not going to change. It's simply not going to change. And when you've got an administration, a president, and a vice president, and congressmen, and senators that want to play the blame game and always place the blame on somebody else, if it is a Republican victim, the first thing you say is, oh, it's the left, it's the Democrats, without any evidence, as was the case here when the president, without any evidence of who the shooter was, what his or her political affiliation was, it's the left. He has to say it's the left. And that's why, you see, basically what he is doing, he is basically being guilty of poisoning the mind of his followers. And this leads to nothing but hate. And ladies and gentlemen, if you really stop to think about it, even according to the suspect that they have, hate is what caused the death of Charlie Kirk. Preaching and practicing hate. Ladies and gentlemen, guns and then hate, hatred of any kind, is like mixing guns with alcohol. It's prone to have a negative impact on the life of someone sooner or later. And that's what we're facing today. Now, on the same day that Charlie Kirk received a bullet to the neck, in the city, or the state of Colorado, a 14-year-old boy walked into a school and shot up the school, injuring several people and then killing himself. 14 years old. And what was his motive? Well, he expressed an anti-Semitic attitude on several occasions. He had been filled with hatred for Jewish people. Now, let me tell you, he wasn't born with this attitude. It's learned behavior. He learned it. Now, I'm not sure. I can't say that he learned it from his parents or he was indoctrinated by someone else. But at 14 years old, he didn't get this from birth. But there again, it's a victim, and he victimized several people with weapons that he should never have had in his possession at 14 years old. But that's where we are at in this country. And this type of violence is not going to go away until we grow a spine. And when I say we, I'm talking about our politicians, and I'm talking about both Republican and Democrats. We grow a spine and grow a backbone and decide to do something about this violence that is happening every day on the streets of America. And like I said, this one was in Utah. They didn't expect this in Utah because Utah doesn't have a black mayor, okay? And Utah doesn't have a black governor. And Utah doesn't have a large black population, okay? So the president certainly would never have expected this to happen to one of his political friends in Utah. But this just goes to show it can and will happen anywhere in America, and it does it every single day. So you keep on preaching and teaching all this hatred, and you keep on talking about make America white again, okay? And I understand why you're doing it. I understand why the census says that in just a few short years, white people will be in the minority. And that has you highly upset. And you feel that there's too many immigrants in this country. You feel there's too many babies of infants, of immigrant families in this country. And the babies from so-called white Americans are not keeping pace. And now we've reached a point where in just a few short years, if you don't do something about those immigrants, you're going to be in the minority. And they can't stand that. And so what do? They refuse to do anything about gun violence, gun control in the United States. They just keep pushing them out, keep pushing them out. And like I said, we're at the point now where we've got more guns in America than we have people. And that cannot have a positive outcome on the citizens of America. Fewer and fewer people every day feel safe in America, and no matter what city it is, whether it doesn't make any difference if you're in the urban or if you're in the suburban communities. Violence is near you. And if it's not near you, it's coming to you soon. All right? But most places, it's already arrived. So don't act like you're so alarmed when it happens in your community, when it happens to one of your Republican friends or one of your Republican loved ones, ladies and gentlemen, because you are being brainwashed to believe that it can't happen to somebody in your surrounding. It can't happen to somebody of your political persuasion. It can't happen to someone who doesn't have dark skin. Okay? That's an illusion that your government, and in particular this administration, wants you to have. And you keep on thinking that. Just like you keep believing that this current administration is going to make your life better in every way. When you're seeing right before your very eyes, nothing could be better, nothing could be further from the truth. Things are getting worse for you every single day. Because every day that Trump is in office, you're getting closer and closer to an authoritarian government. And yet, many of you close your eyes and keep on with the wishful thinking that this man is going to be good for this country and is going to be better for you. And yet, just the opposite is happening. This man doesn't give a damn about you, nor your country, nor your party. When will you wake up and smell the coffee? Or will you continue drinking the Kool-Aid? And unfortunately, I have to say that way too many of you are willing to drink the Kool-Aid, hoping that bad things will happen to those other people, but not us, because we're MAGAs and we're white. Okay? Keep on drinking the Kool-Aid, but don't say I didn't tell you so. Have a good day. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.